Hello, my name is Rachel Perry, and I'm a staff lawyer at Luke's Place. Today, I want to talk with you about intimate partner violence, what it is, what it looks like, and why understanding it matters. I will cover how to define intimate partner violence and how it relates to other terms, the gendered nature of intimate partner violence, the different types of tactics and abuse in intimate partner violence, and what trauma is and how it can show up in survivors' lives. So, what do we mean when we say intimate partner violence, or how it's often referred to as IPV? You may have heard terms like domestic violence, family violence, or gender-based violence. These overlap, but they're not identical. Domestic or family violence can include abuse between partners, but also child abuse, elder abuse, or abuse by extended family members. Intimate partner violence is more specific. It refers to abuse between people who are or were in an intimate relationship, such as dating, common law, engaged, or married. Intimate partner violence can occur between persons of any sex, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, or gender expression, and it can occur in any type of intimate relationship, including monogamous, non-committed, and relationships involving more than two partners. While these terms are often used in gender-neutral ways, in reality, IPV is highly gendered. IPV is, at its core, the abuse of power by one partner over another. It can take many forms, such as physical violence, sexual violence, emotional or psychological abuse, financial or economic abuse, social or isolation-based abuse, and/or cultural or spiritual abuse. A survivor may experience one form of abuse or several at the same time. Later on, we'll look more closely at the tactics abusers use. IPV is part of the broader category of gender-based violence, which also includes sexual violence, stalking, human trafficking, and other forms of violence rooted in gender inequality. According to Statistics Canada, half of all women in this country have been subjected to at least one incident of physical or sexual violence after the age of 16. The violence that takes place within families is gendered violence, with the vast majority of perpetrators being men and the vast majority of victims being women. The reports of Ontario's Domestic Violence Death Review Committee show this clearly. From 2002 to 2017, 81% of victims were women and 97% of perpetrators were men. Despite this evidence, many people still think violence is gender neutral. This misunderstanding can have serious consequences, especially when survivors seek support or systemic help. While men, trans, and non-binary people can also experience IPV, women are overwhelmingly the victims of the most serious forms of coercive control and physical violence, including lethal violence. This pattern is rooted in patriarchal power structures, misogyny, and sexism. Abusers use a variety of tactics to gain and maintain power and control. While physical abuse is often the first thing people think of, abuse can take many forms. Physical abuse can include slapping, shoving, punching, kicking, strangling, burning, stabbing, or shooting. Abusers may also use weapons or other objects to threaten or cause harm. Sexual abuse is any form of sexual activity. This includes unwanted touching, coerced sexual acts, or sexual activity without consent. Women are 10 times more likely than men to experience sexual abuse within an intimate relationship. Psychological or emotional abuse involves behaviors designed to control, humiliate, intimidate, instill fear, or diminish a person's sense of self-worth. This can include verbal aggression, threats, gaslighting, controlling movements or appearance, and belittling or insulting the survivor. Social abuse can involve isolating the survivor from friends and family, putting her down publicly, embarrassing her, or ignoring her. Economic abuse involves controlling money or making the survivor financially dependent. Examples include limiting access to money, requiring detailed reporting on spending, preventing or forcing work, mismanaging family income, building debt without the survivor's knowledge, or destroying her credit rating. Technology can also be used to control or harm. This includes installing spyware or GPS trackers, changing passwords or privacy settings, harassing through excessive messages, posting about the survivor online, sharing intimate photos without consent, or tampering with accounts. Abusers often use many of these tactics together, creating a pattern called coercive control. Coercive control may include psychological abuse, social isolation, and financial control. Physical violence may or may not be present, but the threat is often constant. Over time, coercive control can make a survivor lose her autonomy, her sense of self-worth, and her sense of reality. Many survivors live in constant fear, feeling like a hostage in their own lives. Children exposed to coercive control can also experience serious and lasting impacts. Coercive control is not only harmful on its own, it is one of the strongest predictors of future lethal violence. Research from the Domestic Violence Death Review Committee shows that in most domestic homicides, the abusive partner had a long-standing pattern of coercive control that escalated over time. These behaviors, such as isolation, monitoring, threats, intimidation, and financial control, often intensify when a survivor attempts to resist, seek support, or leave, which increases danger dramatically. To learn more about coercive control, please view CBC's video on what is coercive control. While abuse looks different in every relationship, many abusive relationships follow a cycle of abuse. Understanding this cycle helps when trying to identify abuse or provide support because a survivor's response may depend on where she is in the cycle. The cycle often starts with the tension building phase. The abuser's need for control is growing, and the survivor often feels like she is walking on eggshells, doing everything she can to prevent an incident. Eventually, the situation escalates to an explosive incident. This may involve physical violence, severe verbal attacks, humiliation, isolation, or gaslighting. After the incident, the abuser often moves into denial, minimization, or justification, claiming he did nothing wrong or blaming the survivor. Survivors may also minimize or deny the abuse to cope. This is followed by the honeymoon phase, when the abuser may apologize, give gifts, or promise that it will never happen again. Survivors may hope that the abuser will return to the person they first fell in love with. A period of calm may follow, but eventually the cycle repeats. Over time, the calm honeymoon phase is shortened, while the tension-building and explosive incidences become longer, more severe, and more frequent. It is important to understand that certain risk factors make violence more likely to become lethal. Some of the most common lethality risk factors include prior strangulation, threats to kill the survivor, children, pets, or self, obsessive jealousy or stalking, sexual violence, access to weapons, escalating control or violence, recent or pending separation, depression or suicidal behavior by the abuser, a history of violating court orders, and/or the abuser's unemployment or financial stress. These factors can appear at any point in the cycle of abuse, but often intensify as a survivor prepares to leave or immediately after leaving. Most survivors leaving or recently leaving an abusive relationship are dealing with significant trauma, especially if they experience coercive control. Trauma can look very different from one person to another. For some, it may make them sad, quiet, or compliant. For others, it may cause anger, hostility, or withdrawal. Survivors may also appear disengaged, even from their children. Trauma can create intense fear, even when the survivor is now safer. Survivors may remain hypervigilant because they are used to managing danger in the presence of their abuser. Post-separation abuse, including legal bullying, can further escalate trauma, keeping survivors on edge for weeks, months, or even years. Anyone working with survivors needs to be mindful of trauma responses and avoid assumptions. It is also important to help other professionals understand the many faces of trauma. Violence against women happens across all socioeconomic, cultural, racial, and religious backgrounds. Some communities face additional barriers to disclosing abuse or leaving a relationship. Family court decisions can have serious consequences for women and children. When women receive support and achieve effective parenting arrangements and financial outcomes, they and their children are empowered to move forward safely. Many people also assume abuse ends when a survivor leaves. However, the period leading up to and up to 2 years post-separation are the most dangerous for women leaving abusive relationships. Post-separation violence includes tactics used to prevent leaving, retaliate for leaving, or force reconciliation. Survivors and children may remain unsafe because systems and society often fail to recognize ongoing risk. Abusive partners may block access to money or essential financial information, use stalking behaviors such as showing up unexpectedly, damaging property, making excessive calls, or issuing threats, monitor the survivor's movements or follow her, use technology spyware, hacked accounts, GPS, excessive messaging to harass or track, use social media to talk about the case, embarrass, or slander, lock the survivor out of the family home, escalate threats, intimidation, or violence, threaten or harm friends, family members, or a new partner. They may also involve the children in the abuse by threatening or harming the children, destroying the children's belongings or harming family pets, using children as a reason to break no contact or restraining orders, making false reports to child protection services, exploiting father's rights narratives to gain sympathy or undermine the survivor, withholding child support, spousal support, or contributions to children's expenses, ignoring children's schedules, needs, identities, and fears, and/or using children to gather information or monitor the survivor. The risk of homicide increases sixfold after leaving an abusive partner. The first 2 to 6 months are the most dangerous, both for lethal and serious non-lethal violence. Threats alone can create profound fear and influence decisions. This period often overlaps with high-conflict family court proceedings, which can increase danger. Survivors must be believed and supported. Rapid access to parenting arrangements, restraining orders, and safety planning is essential. Children exposed to family violence may experience social, emotional, psychological, and behavioral problems that can continue into adulthood. Often they witness and hear more than either parent realizes. Children may experience physical injury if they intervene, emotional abuse or neglect, persistent fear, isolation, and a sense of responsibility to protect family secrets. Children learn from what they see. Growing up in violent homes can teach them that love is connected to pain or control, and abuse may become their primary way of managing conflict. The impacts vary depending on age, gender, personality, and level of exposure. Some children may cope relatively well, while others experience severe trauma. Overall, intimate partner violence can take many forms, and this was a very brief overview of IPV. It's important to remember that IPV affects anyone, but women are the primary victims of the most serious abuse. Abuse is often ongoing even after separation, and that trauma from the violence impacts survivors and their children in many ways. Thank you for watching this webinar. To learn more, you can watch our other webinars on IPV and family court and how to be an ally to survivors.